Nice. Can I have that in my class?
Yeah, I have.
Last call.
I want that for my house.
Usually. Is it good?
I think so. So just don't move. No, I just yeah, I'll fiddle a little or something, but you're in there now. So
Okay.
thanks.
So, thank you so much for coming here so early in the morning.
Yay.
We'll try to make it interesting. The title for this was a little pompous and convoluted, so apologies for that. But you'll see where I'm trying to get us, at least, and hope we can actually get there. To start off, let's just do a little game. No stakes. The game will be very simple. I'm going to play snippets of music for you. Your job will be to try to guess what period that music is from. If you know the period, great. If you know the composer, you think you know, even better. If you know the piece, even better, but keep it to yourself, please, up till the end, so to let people think about it.
So we just shout out our answers, or just think it?
No, just think, and then you can raise your hand. And then we'll discuss it. So the first little snippet. Okay, anybody who thinks they know the era? Excellent, so what is the era? Classical, indeed. Who's the composer?
Mozart.
It's very, yes, it is Mozart. Anybody knows the piece?
It's one of the symphonies, right?
It is.
That narrows it right down, right?
I don't remember which one.
Is it- Sorry?
Isn't there only like 40?
Is that the Jupiter?
41 of them, and which one is this?
It would be 40.
He knows.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Sorry.
Is that,
Anyone?
I thought it was the Jupiter or not?
It is Jupiter. It's the fourth movement. It's just the last movement of the last symphony. Yes, yes. So, exactly. Good, very good job. Everybody gets an A. Now we go on. Okay. Any tips for era? When was this written?
Hands up!
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it romantic?
It is
Like
romantic.
1850, 1830, is it? Or is it earlier?
Something like that, yeah.
Was it
Not gonna be
Brahms
exact.
Requiem?
No, Jeremy, we sang it this together.
Oh, damn.
Harsh.
This is Sehnsucht.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is Sehnsucht.
Okay.
And by whom?
I'm still in this program.
No, it's not. It's definitely not Wagner. It's much more conservative than Wagner, in fact. So who would that composer be? No, it's not. It's not Verdi. But Wagner is actually closer in a sense than Verdi. Sorry? No, that's very late. It would be.
All right, tell us.
Yeah, this is Brahms.
Okay.
So this is, in a way, a very classically grounded, very conservative, romantic music. Yeah, and you guessed the error exactly, and that's our goal here. So that is romantic music. Okay. How about the next one? Genre? Baroque. Composer?
Bar.
Johann Sebastian Bach.
Seen Bucky, didn't you?
Yeah.
Piece?
Mass in B minor. I don't know.
Nice, but no, this is a, well, you know it couldn't have been because of the text.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So,
Right.
right? It's von den Stricke meine Sünden, which is St. John's Passion,
Okay.
the alto aria. In this case, performed by Robin Blaze and the Masaki Suzuki and the Bach League in Japan. So yeah, this was absolutely. So far, 3 out of 3. Perfect. Okay, how about this next one? Genre?
Polyphony?
It is, but what's the, I guess, the period for the lots of
1400s.
Yeah.
It
It is
1800s.
probably closer to 1575. I don't know if it's 1575. So it's definitely high Renaissance, as we like to call it. So the late Renaissance. And who's any guesses about the composer? That's it. That's about the best guess you could get.
Yeah.
It's not quite Palestrina, and you can hear in some of the even the way the music starts. Let me start it for you again, and you'll hear what I mean. That Palestrina would never write something like that. This is a composer who is familiar with the Palestrina legend of Palestrina, the savior of church music. So, for those who don't know, the legend is that Vatican wanted to ban polyphonic music in church, but then Palestrina had written such magnificent music that they decided against it. As most of these myths, this is utterly and completely untrue. Or let's put it not utterly and completely. It does have a basis in reality. There was a composer who was actually influential in the church's decision, which was, by the way, never so radical as to completely ban polyphony. It was a little less so, that the words have to be clearly understood. This is the composer. He's called Jacobus Kerle. He's a very unknown composer. He was very influential in his time. He's a Franco-Flemish composer, and I have to say, and you might agree, depending on your tastes, listening to this, he's unduly forgotten. Great, great composer, brilliant music. So, unfortunately, almost never performed. Music not available, recordings not really available. Had to hunt for it a little bit, and it's magnificent music. So yeah, late Renaissance. Okay, so yeah, you guessed it all. So that was level 1. Now we go on to level 2.
What was the name of the composer again?
Jacobus Kerle, Kerle. Kerle.
If he's in the lowlands. Probably
He is.
something else when he was touring, right?
Jakob. Whatever, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so the next thing. How about this piece of music? Etc. Guesses?
Sounds like Brahms, but
No, it's not Brahms at all.
but Romantic period.
I was gonna say late Baroque.
Yeah, Mozart.
Okay, so we have,
It's kind of
okay, so
Mozart.
now we have a little more disagreement here. So we have a Romantic, we have a Mozart, we have a late Baroque,
Early classical.
early classical, which is kind of late Baroque, early
Yeah, right,
classical.
yeah.
So
Nice.
which one is it out of these options? What kind? What?
Haydn?
Yes, no.
Not quite.
Okay.
So what? So
That was
yeah.
well, that would be in that transition.
So what are the stylistic elements that you hear that made you think of one era versus the other?
So the part that I heard, the sort of Mozart-y part, was the repeated runs, the sort of repeating the same phrase over and over, like, and also again, kind of.
That is actually a brilliant observation, and now that you say, I didn't think anyone would say that, but since you did, I will have a comment on
Oh,
it
I'd say.
in a moment. The piece is, so that was about the best guess you could probably have made. It's not Mozart.
No.
It happens to be. It is Johann Christian Bach.
Oh.
It is the
Oh,
London
okay.
Bach. It is the
Alright.
son of the great Bach.
Really
So this is, as Megan pointed out, and a couple of others, it is actually late Baroque, early classical. And you can hear both kinds of styles. Mozart has a symphony, the so-called small G minor symphony, which is sort of a ripoff of this concerto. It is a little bit different. Now it happens that Johann Christian Bach knew Mozart, where he was a well-established composer in London when the Mozarts were making their trip to London. So they met, they knew each other, and he even became somewhat of a protege of Johann Christian Bach. So that's where probably much of the influence comes from. So yeah, you can definitely hear both the Baroque-ish elements, and especially how it's instrumented and the structurally, but the harmonies are going more towards the classical style.
Sounded more lush,
Yeah.
more rich.
Yeah.
When it first started, yeah, I thought it kind of sounded like it could have been romantic. Just like that.
Well, the first, yeah,
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
this is gonna be
Let's
like-
listen to it again.
Yeah, let's-
Well, you starts off and it's going romantic, and as it goes on, you're going, oh, I'm getting earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yeah, right. It's like
It starts very avant-garde at the
Yeah.
beginning and then tones back. let's, so. Oh, sorry, my bad. Control the volume. There we go. It's very
Yeah.
intense. And there you go.
That kind of sounds a little bit.
So Mozart. So
Yeah, yeah.
this part, that's what you meant, I think.
And at the end,
Oh yeah, the 19th.
Yeah, it is you know, just how indebted Mozart is to Johann Christian Bach, another underrated composer. There are lots of those, so no need to worry about it. It's actually something I will want to talk to you about in a little while. But now let's go to our next piece. Thank you. This is our next piece. Now, what was that?
Yeah, what
Any
was that?
guesses what it, right? Yes, what's that?
Early 20th century?
Early 20th century,
Yeah,
Rob?
I was gonna say modern, yeah. It almost feels like a German version of an Andrew Lloyd Webber piece.
German version of an Austrian piece. Anyway, where is Lloyd Webber from?
He's from the States.
Sorry?
Is he?
Or States?
He's
or-
British. I
Is
think
he
he's
British?
British.
British.
Yeah.
Lord.
British.
I think so. Whatever.
He's Lord.
Okay.
Lord.
Lord.
where T.S. Eliot is from.
Yes.
I don't think he'd be on tour in
St.
some,
Louis,
at some, the 13th week, cats in German.
So what is it that exactly? So what is it that kind of tells you that this this should probably be early 20th century, which it is.
All the chromatics.
It is.
Well, not chromatics, it's like.
Not just chromatics, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Totally unstable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weird.
Who could the composer be?
My best guess is Wolf. But
That is a very good guess.
I don't
No,
think
it's
it's
yeah,
right, yeah.
it was a good song. No, believe it or not, this is Arnold Schoenberg.
Oh,
This is
Schoenberg.
This is the Guralieder, which to our
That's
ears,
Schoenberg.
this might sound closest to a Mahler,
Yeah.
this lush late romantic thing.
Yeah.
Actually, at the time of the performance, this was a scandalous piece. Because our ears, 21st century, we take in lots of things and hear lots of weird things. So,
It's
so you
pretty
know,
weird.
from from our this distance, this still sounds very like post-romantic, early 20th century, and we don't really think that it's fundamentally different. But the contemporary audience really got confused by the lack of solid tonality
Yeah.
in it, which we don't really pick up on as much anymore. But at the time, that was a very important difference. So it caused somewhat of a scandal.
When was this composed?
Guralieder, I don't know. I can look it up for you. Early 20th century.
Yeah, like before
20s?
1920. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Before 1920,
Oh,
1910.
They were
Oh, okay.
riots in response to the Rite of Spring when it was
Right.
first.
Yeah.
Same time period,
Is this
same
like the-
response.
The
Is
conversation
that called
was on
12,
about that.
when they use all the 12 notes without repeating them? That
Yeah, so
thing?
that's called the dodecaphonic composition, which is indeed Schoenberg's invention.
Yeah.
This is not a dodecaphonic piece,
It's
as
on
you
the
can
way.
hear. On the way, actually, so Schoenberg was a very curious character because you read some of his letters and he's messianic, egotistical. Like, I see that the world just cannot understand my music at this point in history, but you know, maybe in the future when people will grow up to it, it will be good. On the other hand, he said other things. He also said, yes, you can compose music in dodecaphonic style, but there's still so much good music to be written in the key of C major.
Oh,
He, all throughout his life, he's composed music like this, which is loose tonality going in, but still grounded more in tradition than more like, for example, his string quartet. If anybody knows the Schoenberg string quartet, I have no idea how to listen to it. I've heard it, listened to it, and
Can't get a
it's
handle
weird.
on it.
I cannot get a handle on it.
What's the name of this piece again?
Gurrelieder, G-U-R-R-E, Lieder, like songs. It's about the love of Valdemar, King Valdemar, the Danish king, and Tove, his mistress. It's a set of songs for tenor and soprano. Yeah, it's a magnificent piece, so check it out. It's
Okay.
wonderful. Okay, and one more that I want to show. Now what was this?
Started out like early Baroque.
mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Any others?
Sounds like could be Renaissance.
Yeah, but it's a little
has-
bit Bachy too.
Right. As in some of the cadence points, it's very Renaissance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why am I feeling it's like Handel,
Yeah, I heard that too.
like the
It's
George Frederick?
I mean it is rather regular, and so it does kind of have that regular Handel sound. You know, it's
Like he's
I-
1800.
I think I know a reason, but this is not Handel. This is definitely earlier than Handel. And you
Mid-
guessed
1600s,
exactly right
yeah.
that this is probably mid, not quite mid, probably still towards the early 1600s.
1630.
This is composer.
that blows my guess out. I was gonna guess.
What was this?
I was gonna guess Luther because it just sounds really hymnic.
It feels like
In a sense, a very good student of Luther, but no, a much more prominent composer.
Right, I'm sure.
And I think you know, just any German composer, in fact,
Yeah.
studied in Italy. This is Heinrich Schutz,
Oh,
another massively underrated composer. And I'm going to show more pieces by him today because he's one of the most interesting transitional people between Renaissance and Baroque. He had really good school. His teachers were Monteverdi and Giovanni Gabrieli.
That seems okay.
Yes, it seems like an okay education to get. Not only just very versatile musicians, but both of them very avant-garde musicians in their own time. So you can definitely hear that in Schutz as well. Now, why was it, so let's go back and before we go into Schutz and the transitional period, why was it that some of these pieces you immediately knew, this is classical, this is Mozart, this is Bach, this is Brahms, you know, these were romantic, classical, Baroque, Renaissance. Why was that so obvious in some of the cases, and why was it so volatile in some of the others?
I think a lot of it has to do with texture of voicing. I mean, whether it's polyphonic, whether it's kind of got an even sound to it, it kind of stays in the same tonal place, or if it like reaches outside of that.
Or particular, like, there's sort of like little signature bits, like, so I'll just say in this last piece, the reason why I was thinking of Bach is actually because of PDQ Bach Mass, the Misa Hilarious.
Oh, I
because
don't know it.
But there's these
Halfway
things
through.
that, well, it's making fun of this music, right? So it picks up on those signature things, but there's like the part where it echoes, dun, 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 that feels like that is like a signature motif of that time.
And the vertical stacking, which is why it sounded like a... It's very much
Homophonic.
homophonic.
Feels like
Yeah, Rob?
there's like a fashion to music at this time, and you keep on playing the disruptors, the people that are playing the music that are going to be popular in the next century, but are
Oh,
right
yeah.
now
Not
on their own.
not cool.
Well, yeah, I'm a great disruptor on my own right. So first I played the good ones, then the disruption, just to have
Oh,
that
yes,
well drilled
yes.
in your ears.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly it, and to simplify all the really nice ideas that you had to a cruder level. There are always stylistic elements that are associated with an era, but then the eras change, and in between, people have to figure out what you're doing. Some composers are born, in a sense, lucky. They're born in an era when they do not need to think about what style they're going to write in. Don't mistake me, every composer needs to figure out his or her own personal style, but whether that's a fine-tuning on the existing conventions, or you have to create something new out of basically no tradition, is a big difference. Mozart has a very unique style, but Mozart probably never ever needed to think in his life about, oh my gosh, what genre should I write in? What are my basic stylistic elements? He drank it in with his mother's milk. and so did Brahms, and in a way Bach as well. These are all figures who are sort of finishing off an era of music, especially Bach and Brahms, who were considered conservatives in their own times by their own peers. They're overly sticking to the tradition. That's what they grew up in. That's the language they spoke. They didn't want to write.
But on the other hand, they have to be that much better in order to stand out,
Yes.
doing what everybody else is already doing.
That is very true. Yes, that is very, very true. They were that much better, and
Yes, they were.
and this, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, so what's the cause and what's the effect? Like, you're saying that if they lived in a transitional time, then they had to find a new, or did the transition happen because people were finding new forms?
That is the next question
Okay.
I wanted to ask exactly. So why is it that the style changes to begin with?
Yeah.
Why I played the Kerala Mass credo for you. There's nothing wrong with that music. It's gorgeous music. Why did anyone think I want to change the style? Why did that happen? Yeah, wrong.
Well, you were talking about how Bach and they were writing the old and they were that good. A lot of people would want to strike out and say, hey, I'm a musician, I'm alive, and if they're doing what everyone else is going to be doing, they're under-listened to, like Schutz.
And the era placed a
they're
lot of
appreciated.
emphasis on what was new, what was next, what was coming
Yeah.
up. Very quickly, composers like Bach became old-fashioned and were
So
disregarded.
why does it become old-fashioned?
Audience.
Culture's
The
changing.
audience is looking.
Yeah, so the audience, yeah.
Part of it,
Yeah, the audience. Our audience is going to get bored. Oh, we've already seen this before, and they keep coming to these concerts and they get bored.
What
But
exactly
it's-
is that gets boring, though, Martin?
Oh, I was just gonna say, but it's a different audience, right? Because in a lot of these cases, that where with the growth of the middle class, it's no longer the aristocracy. It's you've got and
The bourgeoisie
as
getting-
the position of who's playing the music and where it changes, then the music has to change to go along with it. Are we going to bigger spaces? Oh, then we need a bigger sound, so we have to get a bigger orchestra.
What is your venue?
And then how does that affect, so we've got these people needing to play together, we can't actually have so much polyphony because it's harder to get polyphony with with 12 people trying to play the same polyphony together, and you can't improvise anymore. So that improvisation goes out, and the next thing has to come in.
And you needed new instruments that could project more to fill bigger spaces.
Yeah.
So the piano starts to supplant the harpsichord. The
So-
recorders fade from view.
So-
But
so
the,
I
the
guess-
economy was changing, hence music was changing.
So one of the big reasons probably is true that as life changes and the circumstances change, definitely the kind of music you're going to write also changes. And I think that's a very valid point, and that is one of the main points that is definitely true. I want to spend some time on the other main point that I think is true, which leads back more to this question which Heather, you responded to, which was about why do audiences get bored? Let's put it this way. Apart from the fact that, of course, it's a different kind of audience. Let's subtract that because we are a very different audience. We enjoy Jakob Kerle's music and Palestrina's music. I know, Robbie's making a face.
Well, we also put away pieces that we've played for 100 times over, and who wants to hear the next stirring rendition of Danny Boy, you know?
So what's exactly the problem here? What happens when a Bach comes around, and there was lots of Baroque music before, and a Bach writes even more polished Baroque music? What kind of dilemma do people face
I can't
right after
compete with
that?
that.
What happens to the style?
I can't compete with that. I can't do better than Bach. I better try something else.
Exactly. In other words, the style gets depleted.
Yeah.
In a way, you go as far as you can with the given rules, and I think that's the other, apart from the social change, that's the other very important reason why the style would change to begin with. Otherwise, you might think, well, why do you need to change a style? I mean, it works. Pretty music. But there's nothing left to do. A new, aspiring, creative, ambitious composer can repeat the same kind of thing this towering giant had done, and then it's gonna be a weak repetition of the thing, which always happens. We just don't know about those composers.
Right.
They always do. Yeah, they exist.
They don't make it into the Oxford edition.
Exactly. They do not make it into the Oxford edition. That is exactly it. But then there are those more adventurous composers who, for whatever reason, sometimes even tend to sort of look down upon the previous genre, saying, so old-fashioned, I'm gonna do better. Bach's sons all were a little bit uncomfortable with Daddy and how just, wigged old man, as Carl Philipp Emanuel called him, essentially. Though, to his credit, he actually gave lots of information to the first biographer of Bach. The first biography appeared 50 years after his death, way
That's a long
before.
time.
Sorry?
It's a long time after his death, for a biography.
Kind of long-ish, but much shorter than Mendelssohn's Resurrection of the St. Matthew Passion, which is reputed to be the moment when they rediscovered Bach. It's a total myth. Bach was a very influential composer. It's just, we have to remember, at that time, early music, non-contemporary music, was very rarely performed to begin with, so it was a passion of professionals to deal with this kind of thing, mostly. Same thing, by the way, today with Palestrina. Do you hear Palestrina in concerts? If you go out into the Chicago Symphony, are you going to hear Palestrina? No, you're not going to hear it at large. You can sometimes see it in choral concerts, but at large, you don't really see it happen. And yet, every student of composition, at least in Hungary they do it, but I'm pretty sure that's the same here. Maybe Jeremy can tell me. Everybody learns the Palestrina style, the Palestrina polyphony, because it's a very rigorous and yet very imaginative style, and it's just good for your brain. So they teach it to all composers. Yeah, so I think this is it. So this is why the style changes, and the reason why I am here concentrating on this transition between Renaissance and Baroque, well, first of all, because you're here in the SCA, so I'm not going to do the transition between Romanticism and it's one of the things. But also, and that is important and very interesting on its own right, that the degree of change that happened at that time was enormous, much greater than the transition, say, from Classicism to Romanticism. It is a big, big, big change. Much more fundamental changes happen. What do we, sometimes we lump Baroque, Classical, and Romantic eras together and we call them call them the common practice period. Because the rules of the game are fairly well defined in all these three genres. The special role of the bass, which is definitely an invention of the late Renaissance, early Baroque. In Renaissance music, the so-called bass is just a voice line. It's something that goes along. The bass as we know it today, so the thing that provides the fundament to the chord.
Right.
The functional music, which didn't really exist in the Renaissance. Functional music is a Baroque invention, and that goes all the way through to Romantic music, actually even today. I mean, if you listen to contemporary popular music, it's functional music. That is a late Renaissance invention, and within the Renaissance itself, they did not think in terms of functional music, in terms of tonic, dominant, subdominant, dominant, tonic. That's the invention that came right at the borderline of these eras. Very, very fundamental changes. Other fundamental changes as well. Let me show you something that was a big change. Right from the Renaissance to the Baroque, and I'm so happy I found this little snippet of music, because it's very short and there's a repetition in it, and it so clearly illustrates what I'm trying to say. This piece of music is from Monteverdi's Orfeo, the opera, and it is the very first ritornello right after the very pompous is not the right, bombastic intro overture with the brasses, which is very famous. So this is right after that. It's hauntingly beautiful. Listen to what will happen in this music. When I listen to these things, I always think that Monteverdi is one of the most wonderful things that could have happened to this planet. This is incredible. But despite just that, let's get back to Earth and ask, what was this very interesting stylistic thing that is very audible here, that was added in, that certainly did not exist in the Renaissance and is the fundament of Baroque music?
The harpsichord?
What did the harpsichord do?
It was like filling in and dancing around that melody that the strings were holding.
Exactly.
It was all of a sudden there was all sorts of stuff going
Exactly,
on.
and that has a name.
I don't know.
Ornamentation? Oh, or
The fundament. So it is improvised, so what's that style? And in Baroque, where you improvise, I'm sorry?
The consort? Nothing.
You better tell us.
Basso continuo.
That's the one.
This is continuo, figured bass. This is the when the bass line is written down, completely new invention. That is it's not really Monteverdi's invention, but he formed
Wait,
it into
what
what we know
bass?
today.
That wasn't the bass holding.
Oh no! So the bass is usually in the celli or the tiorba in this time, and the harpsichordist usually also plays the bass, of course, but you don't hear it because it's overpowered.
Right.
And the harpsichord or tiorba, whatever instrument they use, is improvising, filling out the chords.
Yeah.
That's the point of the figured bass, that you have the bass line written down, which now is bass as we understand it today, not as just yet another line to be filled in, but as the fundament of the harmony going on. And there's this improvisatory filling out of the harmonies. And indeed, Monteverdi used that in his notation. So he would use these numbers, which are very difficult to decipher because we also use numbers, but that's a different system, and we don't really know what those numbers meant back then. So that's why actually this ritornello, if you listen to different conductors, they have different versions of it,
Yeah, cool.
because they need to fill it out. This is, I think, one of the most brilliant versions. This is Emmanuelle Haim, a French conductress.
Can we hear it again?
Absolutely.
Now that we know what we're listening to.
No continuo yet.
out, the winds too, right?
Yeah,
You're saying-
and actually, I've never seen the score, but I know that L'Orfeo is tough because no original scores really remain, so people have to work from copies and facsimiles. So it's not only the harpsichord which needs to be guessed at sometimes, but also the other instrumental accompaniment, and then that's actually what I meant partly, not just, I wasn't just meaning harpsichord,
Yeah, yeah.
the way the harmonization is filled out is I think, in a class of its own in this case. It's just so interesting, and very Monteverdi, so.
It's weird, I hear that and I hear Vivaldi, they're nowhere near the same time period.
No, like Vivaldi is mature Baroque, Italian pop music.
No.
Wow.
Now, is the continuo the name of the bass line, or is the continuo the name of?
So it's called figured bass. So
Right.
the figure means that you write down the bass note,
Yeah.
and then you write numbers as for what kind of chord
Right.
you imagine that. So it's the whole thing together. It's
Oh,
not
okay,
really
sure.
So yeah, you can hear the birth of basso continuo here, which is like dominates Baroque music. And let me get back to what Rob said a little while ago, that the Schutz reminded him of Handel a little bit. So part of the reason could be the German roots actually, and also the fact that in Baroque music, the bass as the fundament is always, the instruments are always playing it along with the choir. That's why it's so boring to sing bass in Baroque ensembles.
Doesn't just have one
unfortunately.
job.
You just sing whatever the celli are doing, right? And so you might just go out for a drink. All of Baroque music, and that's a stylistic element which might have reminded you partly. I'm just guessing away, of course. I mean, I'm doing psychoanalysis on this.
There's something else in that piece that struck me, is that he teaches the audience what to listen for. So it introduces that melody,
Mhm.
so just listen to this. Now,
Yeah.
got it?
Mhm.
Now we're doing something else.
I'm
And
pretty
then
sure that's
continue.
Emanuel Haim and not Monteverdi.
Yeah, she does that in a bunch of other Monteverdi stuff too.
Oh,
So I'm
got
pretty sure
it.
that's Haim.
That's the directing of it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
It's kind of like when Pippin goes around and we sing it all the way through.
Exactly,
First, and then we go
yeah.
into the rounds. It's like,
Here's what you're listening to, now here's
Yeah.
something interesting.
Now I may. So we're running a little bit late on time. So I'm just going to go forward a little bit. So Heinrich Schutz, student of Gabrieli and Monteverdi, very avant-garde composers on their own right. And let me show you a wonderful little piece by Gabrieli, which is one of the pieces which I think you can just feel how it's looking for the new style. It's a little bit. Let's just listen to it. You'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. It's a style-seeking piece. It's brilliant music. canzona by Gabrieli. Renaissance or Baroque?
It was
Weird.
changing.
Yeah.
It started out
If
as
you had to
one
see
thing,
very
and then
coarse
it was something
grained.
else, and then it was back to the first thing.
There were bits that sounded almost Gagliardi and bits that were completely not.
It
So-
sounded
so-
like he was playing it in music room 1, and somebody, he was constantly getting drowned out a little bit by the music being played in music room 2.
Oh, no, that's brilliant. That's exactly, so Gabrieli was the conductor of the St. Mark Church in Venice, which exactly has that kind of structure, where you can put a large and a small ensemble next to each other. So he actually used that effect to his advantage. This is exactly what you can hear in his canzonas. There are other ones which illustrate this point even better, so I'm so glad that you actually
Like
heard
your,
it.
the radio station's on 94.7, and you actually have it turned to 94.8. You know? Constantly occasionally get a car advertisement or something. No, that's not funny.
So yeah, that, I think that's very true. So is it on the very coarse strain, Renaissance or Baroque? Had to say one word. Okay, so it is pretty divisive. To my ears, it's kind of Renaissance-ish because there's no basso continuo,
Yeah.
because of the cadence points. But you can hear how it's looking for something new. It's not really in the direction that later became the Baroque, but it's still branching out and trying out new things. The fact that it's a little coarse around the edges because it's looking for this, I don't think that diminishes at all from the quality of music. It's amazing. But it is, it has a feel of roughness to it a little bit. It's experimenting. Let me show you another experimental composer in a way, which again did, so the thing is, this kind of music sort of evolved into the Baroque, but this is not what eventually became it. It's one of the experimental styles and experimental composers of the era. Let's hear another experimental composer of the time.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not.
Wow.
What is this?
Definitely Renaissance.
It's definitely
it's
Renaissance.
definitely
isn't it?
Renaissance, but very experimental
In a
with
way-
where it's
yes,
going.
in a sense it's conservative because of the Renaissance form. And Recessit pastor noster is the text. But on the other hand, in the harmonies and the way it does it, it's one of a kind. Composer? Yes?
It's not quite crazy enough to be Gesualdo.
That's what I
It
was
is
thinking.
Gesualdo.
Is it
Yeah.
Gesualdo?
It has
Okay.
all, this is Gesualdo's sacred music.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is
It's not as
can't get
crazy.
too
Not
crazy.
too crazy.
so this is the sacred music.
But you can see why the church was pissed off. Because you can't hear the text in that whole middle section. You can't understand what they're saying because there's so many overlaps.
Yeah, oh,
Why they
yeah,
wanted to give
yeah.
it a polyphony?
Well, yeah, where they're like, no one can understand the music, so how can they pray?
Don't mind me dropping off for the next class, my tree killing stack of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're kind of running a little bit out of time. So there were a couple of other snippets that I wanted to show, but I won't really have much of a chance to. But actually one of them I want to show you, which is told you Schutz, student of Monteverdi and Gabrieli, and he has a first book of madrigals, very Renaissance genre. And it's very interesting madrigals. Obviously, he had to show both that he's a master of the tools of the trade, but within that, he took lots of liberties with how he's writing music. Let me show one of these pieces, which is one of my particular favorites. It's heartbreaking.
That's a madrigal?
Hear how he uses the seventh of the chord in his suspensions and cadences. That's not Renaissance anymore. Sila. That's your Baroque looming at you. Brilliant polyphony, showing the masters who can write in that style. Section 2. Section 3, a very different character. And the final. More show off as for how well he can write standard polyphonic music. This was Schutz in his youth. Then he became older. That also means that his music became a little more controlled, maybe, and following the principle of less is more, in a sense. But I don't think that's, I mean, he was like 26. Wow. What did I do when I was 26? This is his first book of madrigals published. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm so happy to answer them. And as you go off, I'll send you off with a little bit of Schutz, so that you can just enjoy the music, not that one. Sorry. My bad. I meant this one. I'll leave this background music. So if you have any questions?
I have a request.
Yes.
I would love to have a list of what we listen to.
Absolutely.
Because it's a lot of new music for me, so that would be a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
What's that?
Thank you very much.
much.